This video is a deep dive into the folklore and the mythology around the world's most popular ecstasy pill design, the Blue Punisher. This design has become so popular, so prominent that it's actually changed the ecstasy pill market. And that hasn't happened since the Dove and the Mitsubishi designs that rose to fame in the 1990s. In this video, I'm going to look at how this trend came about, some of the data surrounding it, and we're going to hear from someone who has studied this trend, and we're going to hear from someone who has pressed millions of Blue Punisher pills.
I probably make more than 4 million of those each year.
But if you can't be bothered watching this, there is a main message that I want to get out there. There's a minority of people that believe if a pill is a Blue Punisher that it's somehow better quality or stronger than other pills, but the reality is that as the sort of the Blue Punisher rose up to fame, its reputation was hijacked by various producers who are all producing different qualities of Blue Punishers. So in 2026 you can get a Blue Punisher that could be really strong or really weak or contain nothing at all. That seems to be a misconception that persists for a minority of people who take ecstasy. So let's get into it. A big moment in the history of the Blue Punisher design, which uses the skull logo of the Marvel anti-hero The Punisher, took place around 5 years ago in Manchester, UK. As the sesh heads at a commercial club night, the Warehouse Project, were swinging their jaws in time to drum and bass, a member of staff discreetly left the venue with some drugs. They made the short journey, a couple of minutes down the Mancunian Way motorway, to the Manchester Drug Analysis and Knowledge Exchange, known as Mandrake, located within Manchester Met University. This is a regular drop-off and surely the only context in which drugs have travelled from a nightclub to a university rather than the other way around. But the aim of the operation is to see whether drugs that were fueling the party contained anything especially dangerous that the punters should know about. This is known as a back-of-house testing service, which means that Mandrake tests drugs that are confiscated by security, surrendered in an amnesty bin, found on the floor, or handed into medical staff. On the night, some Blue Punishers were included in that testing, and it formed part of a trend. A number of Blue Punishers had been confiscated by bouncers across multiple clubs in Manchester over the previous 10 days. Analysts found a total of 6 pills that contain 477 milligrams of MDMA in one bag at one of the clubs. This is the strongest ecstasy pill ever to be officially lab tested anywhere in the world. Even before this incident, the Blue Punisher reputation was already steadily growing. Extra strong Blue Punisher pills had been lab tested, with the results published at festivals in Bristol and Cornwall the year before. And a week before the ultra strong ones were tested in Manchester, an inquest heard that 19-year-old 𝙁𝘼𝘾𝙀𝙨 died after taking 2 triple strength Blue Punisher pills on a night out with friends. After the Mandrake warning went out, the story was quickly picked up by Max Daly, who was then the global drugs editor at Vice. It was then followed up by Mixmag and Dazed. Then everyone was talking about it. The reputation was cemented and a legend was born.
Your mouth seems to be working just fine.
That's one theory of how the Blue Punisher rose to fame, but let's look at some data surrounding this trend to see if that adds up. This video is brought to you by Easy Test Kits, quick, reliable and affordable drug testing kits for all your favourite party prescriptions. If you want to learn more or get, say, an MDMA testing kit, then click in the description below and use my promo code SESH for a 10% discount.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris. I'm a software engineer and I developed a website and app called Pill Scanner. The idea is for visually searching a pill you have for harm reduction purposes, and it will link you to existing pill lab reports to see what the analysis is.
The thing that we're talking about today is the Blue Punisher.
We visually distinct like at least 8 of them. The first report actually came from around like 2016, by the way. And it seems to be like on a very slow pace and then gained massive momentum around like in 2022. and it's still today like one of the most dominant and most popular pills in existence, both in America, in Asia, and in Europe.
Okay, blue punishers. If we look at Berlin's data, we see that blue punishers are by far the most tested pill design, ecstasy pill design, of the 300 pills they tested in the year and a half. That has several reasons, one of them being the media attention and this story being that they're particularly dangerous, so people are more inclined to get them tested. But also before that media hype happened, they were the most tested pill. So they're just also the most prevalent ecstasy pill nowadays.
So popularity-wise, like, yeah, the stats show the proof what people experience as well. They gain in popularity around like 2021, 2022, and are still dominant. These are not the original ones, obviously, they're copycats, but the brand is a well-known brand that does sell.
Some designs are very popular. Blue punishers, for example, which is crazy because that is one of the most copied pills with the most variance of quality. You see them from 100 milligrams all the way to 300 milligrams, even to the highest dose pill ever tested. People love some designs and keep buying those, even if the design means nothing anymore. That's why I keep making blue punishers. There's always a demand. I probably make more than 4 million of those each year.
Originally, it seems to have popped up in the hardstyle, like music world, where they're more aggressive.
Rotterdam.
Yeah, exactly.
Rotterdam _Terrorcorps.
Yeah, like Thunderdome. And sort of DEFCON 1 festival vibe. It's a really interesting question. Like these pills sort of have a brand of their own, and I think at this point there are certain logos that people connect more with the pills than the brands they came from. Most people, I would imagine, taking a Punisher pill don't know it's IP of the Marvel universe. You know, there was a comic book artist who drew that design. It's a comic book artist. And so they develop a life of their own. So in some ways, it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy where people, if they're going to justify buying 300,000 pills, even if there's a 5% better chance of them selling, they're going to do that.
I was studying marketing at university. I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I was always thinking about marketing. What buyers wanted, what customer experience they needed, how to connect with moments in culture, and how to create viral products. It was all marketing in a way.
You touched on it before, but the hype really started around 2021, and we can see that in the data. That's linked to this pill in Manchester. So can you see that in the data after the news reports, we then saw a sort of explosion of blue punishers in the data?
It had. I'm not sure if it's like cause and effect. I don't think that's clear. But the grant, like if you write it on like in the public news, like people will know about it. I think there is some link to be taken. For example, like in the whole fentanyl crisis in the US, some dealers do it on purpose, giving way too high dosages because it causes a lot of attention. So I wouldn't be surprised if this would have caused a lot of eyeballs to look at these articles and like, what is Blue Punisher? People would start looking for it. Like, what is it?
These warnings were published by drug checking organizations that these pills are extremely highly dosed, which is true. They were around 300 milligrams, which is very high. As soon as they reach their intended audience, they become advertisements. Like, you want these pills, so they become sought after. So that creates a demand for these pills. And then, of course, someone will fill this demand, so it will create additional supply. Other people will start covering, like ripping off the pill with different production values.
If we look at like the trend over the years, we can see that there's like a big distinction gap regarding dosages, right? So dosages will always fluctuate, right? But as you can see in the original ones, they hover around like 250, right? Fairly consistently. And then around 2020, like they consistently drop in dosage as well.
For reference, like this is a typical dose for one person, and so the Blue Punishers generally range between 1 and 2 doses, with the average being about 1.5. But there is an outlier here, and there's a surprisingly large spread.
Around 120 milligrams would be perfect for most people. For many users, that is enough for a whole night if they don't redose too much. But the market demands stronger pills. Some customers want 200 milligrams or more because it sells easier. If I go too low, they'll go to another presser.
In the book, I think at this point there are more than a dozen Blue Punishers that we photographed, and they range in the dosage massively. In our book and what we do, we don't publish any of the testing results because I just fear that someone would use the book as a reference source, and that's dangerous. But I do hope that they see a dozen Blue Punishers and realize, oh, the design doesn't mean anything.
I think these are very interesting. So these are all the different categories that we visually could find, and they're mapped over the time and dosages. So as you can see, like the graph initially said, like the dosage is fairly high, around 250. And as you can see, when the copycat starts coming up, you just see the dosage not only lowering, but also the variance is becoming a lot higher. So all the same colors are visually the same, so they should be from the same press. But you can see these batches, they wildly differ, right? Like some of them, they go from 240 all the way down to 150. It's almost like half, right? It's not that one of the presses is much stronger than the other ones. The biggest issue is still the variance in them. So even like the reported good ones, like for example, these images, sometimes they do pop out on like 66 milligrams. This is obviously very dangerous, but like if you take someone, you don't feel anything, you'll take another one and you might be hit with like one of the big ones.
So how can multiple producers create the exact same pill? I mean, of course, they could make their own molds or 3D print them, but it's easier. You can just go to Chinese websites and buy exactly that mold for $40. So even the production of these pills is a mass-produced product. So there will be multiple producers of every specific mold.
These high-end pill presses, they're 60, 70 grand, and they're already in the country, and they're people who know how to make them. There's so much demand for this that even the largest scale producers, their pills are sold before they've made them.
There's a certain amount of people in the comment section on my videos that are just completely convinced that if a pill is a Blue Punisher, number one, it's going to be just MDMA and no other substances, but number two, it's going to be extremely strong. Now, is there a risk there with people assuming this, do you think?
If you see, look at the data, right, like the variance is very, very high. You might get a dot like 66 milligrams, as you've seen before, or something very high. One of the things that's not shown here is there are also presses out there, because we are only looking at like the 8 or 7 most popular presses, right? There's a bunch of other stuff out there, like different colors as well. As you can see, for example, from the designs, right? Like some of them don't even look close. Like this one, this is a very cheap knockoff, right? There are a bunch of other ones, but we only have like 1 or 2 reports from them. In those reports, you will see, for example, some of them even contain ketamine or traces of other chemicals. For example, like 2CB, even though it's smaller amounts. But these are from, I think, the labs or something that also do other synthesis. So even if you have like, even it's the same batch, and if you have like a good experience, like there could be other chemicals in there. The data is very sparse on this, but absolutely the data is very clear on the variance of the dosages. Like it goes up and down extremely hard.
And have you seen in the last, say, 2 or 3 years in your data, has the Blue Punisher got any more or less popular in the sort of recent past?
The hype is dying down, though. Unfortunately, statistically, this is not really verifiable, because in a lot of these places, the harm reduction groups have lower budgets, especially like in the US. So there is obviously like a lower report, right? But across the board, we can see that other pills that are popular are consistent, where like the hype of Blue Punisher is down. Tesla's, for example, they're still fairly popular. So Tesla's reports have not been impacted that much compared to the Blue Punisher. So that would mean that the hype of Blue Punishers are maybe dying down a bit, or they're not getting pressed that much, and other, for example, the Tesla supply is more consistent or going up.
How can people use Pill Scanner? How can the audience use it?
There's an app for it, or you can just use the website. It's pillscanner.app, and then you can press the start button or start scanning. You can either upload your photo, a picture or your camera, or you can just like one of the demo pills to get an example. This will then use a visual search tool to then see if you have any similar other pills, and it will link you with these lab reports that are online. So it will extract like the pills from the picture, and then you can see lab reports that are previously reported. This is also from our data that we're using for this statistical analysis. And these are like the official lab reports. For example, this one is from Switzerland, and they will give you like a breakdown of what's in it. So these were then tested. This one came back with 250 milligrams of contents. if you then open multiple pill reports, for example, like this one, different colors or the ones that look alike, you'll see that these all have like different ranges of dosages, right? Like this one, for example, is only 136. Meanwhile, they all look very similar. So you can, do your own research and see that the variance is indeed very high. So be very careful and don't make any assumptions on either the contents or the volume, the dosage of it.
The Netherlands has continued to dominate this for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's a fascinating question. There are definitely reasons why the Netherlands started with the lead.
Knowledge, chemistry knowledge, infrastructure, logistics, also experience. This scene is decades old here. We've had multiple generations of learning, refining, and growing. People here, we know what we are doing here.
What percentage of pills are pressed within the Netherlands?
The estimate is somewhere around 90%.
90% of the world's pills are pressed in the Netherlands, but only a tiny fraction of that is consumed in the Netherlands.
That's right.
I'd guess less than 5% stay in the Netherlands. Now, I think it's even less. We're pressing millions of pills. There's not enough users and parties in our small country.
One of the things I try to evaluate from the data set is where are they first reported and then where are they reported later. But we can see that a lot of these reports, especially in Switzerland and Germany, pop up first, and then later they're popping up in North America, South America, and so forth, right? But what you can see as well is like Africa, for example, in Asia, like these markets, like the reports are very, very small. So we have limited data what's going on there.
It's not a case of this is a complete picture. It's a case of we're trying to piece together what we can within the context of prohibition, which is very difficult and more difficult in certain countries where the prohibition is sort of dialed up or dialed down depending on local policies, etc.
What I find so fascinating is that people at this point know. If you ask them, they'll say, yeah, no, we can't tell anything from the design of the pill. But so many people are still, at least online, getting excited about a pill because of its design.
Anyone could buy the dye off from China.
Yeah.
And anyone could press absolutely anything into
Oh, yeah. You could buy stamps that also have the little NL mark on the back. They're all available. They're all inexpensive. They're all accessible. And so that just reminds us that there is no design on the pills that gives you any sense of provenance or any confidence in who made it. But of course, there's still a mythology around it.
What's your message to the end user? Would you recommend, regardless of batch, regardless of location, always test?
Always test, yeah, definitely. I would not risk it. As you can see from the day, like the variance is just too high. So always send it in for like a lab results, absolutely. This is mainly like an awareness program to show that like you really need it, and even like a video search is not good enough. And hopefully like you will make it clear for people that it's unreliable to just look at it. And supporting like at least get a test kit. Yeah,
and hopefully that more countries are going to roll out these sort of testing. It's very difficult in England to get stuff tested. You can post it to a certain thing in Wales, that's a government thing. Where in Oz it's in your data. And there is sort of very small testing in city centres, but it's very few and far between. And generally the Home Office here does not look kindly on the testing for some reason. But there you go. Fantastic project, very interesting. Link to it in the description. People check it out.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Sometimes it feels like as long as there's raves and as long as there's pills, there's someone there who's saying that a blue Punisher is superior quality. But hopefully after watching this, everyone will agree that the stamp or design has no relevance whatsoever when it comes to assessing quality. If you find these videos useful or interesting, hit the bell notification, and I'll see you on the next one.